welcome to another edition of the Adam Dunn Show. I am your host, Adam Dunn, and I am in the studio with absolutely nobody except for me and MTI.
What up?
We're rocking it this week. I've been gone for 2 weeks, which just feels super long for me. I think it's the longest I've ever done. Never did 2 weeks. Usually miss a week once in a while here and there, but 2 solid weeks. But I've been out on the road doing all sorts of crazy shit, going to just trade show after trade show, it seems like, and crowning Jason Pinsky as the mainstream king of cannabis, which was a pretty fun event. I was trying to get him on the phone to see if he can update us, but he's too busy being the king right now, I guess. That's what fucking goes down. What else is it? I got Coastal Seeds calling in any second now. They should call. They should be. Oh, they're late, dude. Come on, man. We're running tight ship here. This has never happened.
Oh, right.
Wow.
All right.
Oh, a stoner who's on time. It's amazing.
What do you know?
How you doing, my friend? This is Adam. This is I did. I remember walking over to your booth and making sure that we got to know each other for a second because I loved your Big Sur Holy that you guys had put out. I was like, wow, this is on point, you know. So. No, I don't think I did actually. I don't think I did. No. 100%. And on top of that, you gotta, you know, we gotta reintroduce some things into this gene pool because there's, you know, can't all just be OG and diesel. You know what I mean? It kind of gets to like, okay, guys, there's a whole world out there, people. You know. Yeah. Sure. So give me an idea. Give everybody an idea of like, because you know when people say they're old in this industry, you never know who they are. Because sometimes people think they're old, and then you're like, dude, what are you talking about? like, but I know you've definitely been around the block a few times. So. Wow, that's great. That's the year I was born. That's the year I was born there. And I'm usually the guy telling people that because I'm saying like, oh, 93, and they're like, oh, dude, I was like 6, you know. Yeah. So back in the day, what were the challenges? I mean, obviously, because most people didn't even try to. Once they tried to grow and they realized it's not as easy, especially because there were these equatorial crazy sativas and things like that. Did you have any success right out of the gate, or did you have to really like hone your craft there? Nice. Was it a lot of Oaxacans, or what kind of Mexicans are you talking about? Mm-hmm. Right. Sure. Yeah, I mean, wow, yeah, every so often you find a seed in the hash in Amsterdam too, and it always be like, wow, that's made it, that has to be grown, you know what I mean? At that point, you have to try to grow it. Yeah, it's awesome. So was it real broadleaf? Was it proper real broadleaf indica, or was it sort of it was? Huh. Right. Sure. Yeah, well, like our friends from Colombia did that when they came to Amsterdam with their entries. They just basically made a chain out of him and wore it around his neck on the plane. I was like, dude, you're nuts, dude. You're coming from Colombia with a hash necklace. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't give a fuck. He was just like, whatever, boom. Yeah, well, some people just got the kahunas. Sure. What was the altitude up there? Okay. Nice. Yeah, so
And
good to get a little up there.
it was nice. It would get really warm. We'd have to haul the water up in 55-gallon drums. I didn't have any water up there.
Well, that's not a good
And,
thing. That's definitely a hamper.
Yeah. So you're young, you can do it. I mean, I can't imagine doing it now, but I mean,
Yeah.
some people still grow a farm, but it's it's hard work.
Oh yeah.
And I was basically trial and error, talking to some friends that were growers. Some of them had more experience, and some had about like mine or less. And we just shared information. At the time, we were using the old style stuff like bone meal, blood meal, all that old stuff, and dig these huge holes and make our own soil. I had real nice leaf mold up there that I mixed in. The soil was great. I mean, but the additives, I mean, I don't use those anymore. But that's what we were doing then in those days.
Yeah. So
But the plants were good. They were big.
right.
I actually grew some Thai stick in 1974. Some Buddha sticks that came over. I grew them out on, out here in Santa Cruz, out in the country. It's an old dairy farm, and I planted them. Now, this just tells you about the weather, the way things are. These guys say, whatever, the weather's changed or not or whatever. I planted those things, I think March or April, six, and then 2 ended up being females, and I just, of course, got rid of the males. I didn't want them at the time. But those things grew gigantic. They were 18-footers, and they didn't finish till February, and they finished. It didn't even bother them. I mean, they're equatorial. I mean, but now I can't. You could never do that now. I've tried growing Thai here, and they just slow down basically to a crawl.
And do you you still have some of these things in the vaults or what? Like some of those original?
I don't have I don't have that particular strain of Thai, but I have some other from a friend that lived on the Burmese Thai border. That it's lemon Thai that was available for a while. I don't know if it's actually I got some from Bodie actually.
Really, that's cool. Good.
Yeah,
Good source.
And,
good source.
lemon Thai. He's a good guy. We don't live too far away.
Right. Nice.
It was a lemon Thai, very slender leaf, smelled like Meyer lemon. Even when it was immature, it's kind of wiry. It was still pretty nice, but they needed to go till February, and without protection, it's tough here when you start getting the heavy rains and
Sure.
Cold weather and stuff. But I think if you were to work with those for 3 or 4 years and acclimate them, get them to where they're not quite mature, but pollinate them, grow them again.
Right.
But I think within 3 or 4 years, you'd probably be able to start pulling those off. They'd start maturing a little bit, and they'd get climatized to our weather.
Sure. And the crazy part is when you grow any of these land races, it's like you really have to go maybe 2 or 3 generations before. The first couple generations almost always disappoint me. It's always like, God, really? And it's like, it's just because it's not, they're not tuned in, and then, but if you can actually go through the generations and kind of keep, and not lose interest, because that's the problem a lot of times. It's just, there's very rarely out of the gate where you get those combos that are all there. It's a lot of times it's like one piece that you kind of hone in on it or something like that. And because I've had so many times where in my mind I remembered the plant, and then I grew it out, and just kind of, it's so hard because depends where you are, it depends and if you're going outdoors, it's even more extremely hard because you're limited by your latitude at this point.
Yeah, and you got to have patience because they're not going to be your quick flowering plants, and then they start flowering, and some of them lag back, and then they commence again, and some of the branches matured, others don't. Last year I grew this purple Congolese that I acquired, and I had to be on my toes. I mean, the thing I just couldn't read to begin with.
Right.
And it kept going, and it was really green and dark green, smelled like grapes. And, basically just was using my recycled composted soil, which that's what I usually do, and I don't really fertilize that much. When I do use some fertilizer, I'll do a pump here. It's a buddy of mine who owns Sensational Solutions. I do use his. It's a micronized fish.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not real strong anyway. But anyway.
Sure.
So I would use a little bit of that, and I think I just fertilized maybe twice. And then all of a sudden, the plant started getting. It got to about 10, 11 feet. Very slender leaf. Started off slightly wider, and then went into the slender leaf.
Yeah.
And then it started turning purple. And then it got to the point in February, it was like black.
Sure.
It was so purple.
And
gorgeous.
That was
now
Thai.
These buds.
That was
these
Thai.
buds,
You said that was a Thai.
No, that's purple Congolese.
Oh, Congolese. Yeah, I was going to say because actually Nigerian blacks and things like that are usually the. I mean, it's like those are the places you can find those crazy black plants that are just like.
Yeah, those are gorgeous. So the Nigerians and Angolas, I've grown those too.
Right.
But this was not really a pristine. It was a pristine looking plant, but I mean, if you were to look at it cosmetically with the buds, they were very airy.
Right.
Nobody would really. I mean, unless you're a connoisseur of landrace, you probably wouldn't care much about it. But
gotcha.
But anyway, now I'm doing that plant again, and I'm doing an open pollination of some landrace Burmese that I'm going to cross that with this year. I'm doing a seed increase with my Burmese. I'm going to let go at the Emerald Cup. I let some of that go a while back. I've had that for quite a while. It's a beautiful plant. It's got a hell of a terpene profile. It doesn't get real big, maybe gets 6-7 feet, maybe.
Right.
And it does get, once in a while you get those leaves that are they turn kind of yellow, half yellow, like a deformation, but it's part of the genetic makeup of the plant. They don't all do that. That pulls out of it after a while.
Like a variegation or something,
Yeah, kind of like a variegation. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean that's the funny part with a lot of these land races too is that you're really, I mean, you have to let them grow out, in full potential. And some, like I kind of compare it to hair sometimes. Like some people can grow their hair just super long, and you're like, how do you do that? And like other people, just their hair stops, and it's like the plants have a they have a setup, but there's some varieties that just keep going, and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like they're great
for. Well,
for.
This one would.
No,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say they're great for covering like a large area, but they're unruly and impossible if you're not really planning for it. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh my god, you get a proper Jack of the Beanstalk. I had some of Bodie's stuff like that too, where it was his dread bread is like that, where it just keeps. Yeah. Cheese keeps going. You know what I mean?
He had a I think it was a. Cambodian plant. I think that's what it was. Cambodian or I think that's what it was.
Yeah, Laotian or something.
Last year or year before, I think. I went over there and we were looking around, visiting, catching up and stuff. We see each other every couple months and catch up. And I look over and I see this look like a sequoia, man. And one of the branches were, God, I don't know, 5 inches, broken, laying on the ground with just part of the outside of the plant left on there, and the thing is still growing.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh man, we gotta prop that thing up." He said, "Oh man, it's so big they just break. It's going to keep growing."
Yeah.
The thing was a brute.
Right.
It was just the most. It was a gorgeous plant.
Sure.
And I think that one finished up January, I think, or something like that. But
yeah,
I haven't grown that yet. He gave me some seeds of it, but it's just the survival to live on that thing. It's just hanging by a thread, and the thing's still growing. Can you imagine?
Right. I mean, well, that's the
most
thing. Most
other plants, when your branches break on some of these most of the strains, they die within a few days.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. It seems to be a kind of rampant in the OGs and stuff too, where they have real weak stems a lot of times, and just like you get those things where if you walk through your room, you're breaking branches off, and it's like some plants just don't. They're too stiff, and they just kind of break off, and they have that like tendency to break off almost easier than you're trimming weed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you get goes.
Yeah, some are just basically weak. I mean, you try to get the ones that the branches are sturdy enough, but I've had quite a few that I still have to stake them up. But I think as time goes on, as I grow them out later on, they kind of firm up a little bit. You select them for that one aspect of it.
Yeah, well, I think it's like when you're taking down a room or you're taking down a plant outdoors, and it's like it becomes a hassle. Like sometimes you do more damage than good during the harvest because the plants just have no integrity.
Sure.
They have like. You go to, it looks so good when you were looking at it, and then you get in there, you cut one branch, and now all of a sudden the thing's just like a floppy mess. And at the end, when you start doing that enough, you're like, it kind of like makes you really just, once you have a plant that's really easy, you're like, why wouldn't I just grow that? You know what I mean? But it does suck because I think we're all, as breeders, we have to have so much going on that we're, you're kind of stuck at a certain point. You're like, okay, well, I have to have these because even if I know that they're not as productive as something else, and if people are just doing production, they can just throw away whatever's not working at the moment.
Well, some of the stuff, they may not be quite up to your expectation, but they're real rare and they're worth keeping to work with.
Exactly. No, and it literally becomes like a hoarding situation though too, where you're just like can't help it. You know what I mean? You're like I can't get rid of that because I know it sucks as it is, but it makes great. It makes great offspring. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of plants like that where they're kind of beat up themselves and they're tired, but every time you make a cross off of them, they seem that doesn't really affect that at all.
Seem to get perked up a little bit.
Well,
I'm growing these. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that. I mean, the plants, like for instance, like with me, like I had my sage now for about 21 years, and I keep one copy around, and it itself is kind of burned out. Like it doesn't really want to produce like it used to. But when I make copies of it, it's like it's fine. You know what I mean? So it doesn't really seem to affect the plants as much in that sense for the next generation.
Yeah, that part of that's something to say about. That holyweed is one of the most vigorous plants, even to this day, that I've ever grown. The genetics in the Big Sur holyweed are phenomenal.
Right, and
as far as I'm concerned. I mean, that's just my opinion.
100%. No, me too. And it's. I always tell everybody it's like it's going to be the last plant in your room if you have like any kind of like pump failure or anything like that. You come in, everything else will look fucked, and you look over and go, oh, what the hell is that? Oh, it's a sage. It's like it was one of those miracle plants where it never ever, like it would always come through, and I had guys who had locust infestations and killed like all their plants, and they're like, dude, I only had 8 plants left and they were all sage, and they were just kind of randomly in the field, you know what I mean? And he's like, I don't know what about them, but they just didn't go after it, so certain characteristics. And I was really impressed because it was like the Big Sur holy that you have and the sage mom that we grew it from, which is from Partington Ridge and Big Sur, you know what I mean? Like we know where it came from. We knew exactly where it came from, and the weirdest part is that we were in Amsterdam, we were doing our selection, and that we were tasting the actual dirt there, you know what I mean? We were like, dude, it tastes like fucking big, like it smells like sage, it tastes like Big Sur, because it's just that vibe that's already there when you get there. There's tons of sage growing, and the whole connotation of us calling it that was the fact that it tasted the most like Big Sur, you know what I mean? We're like, that's Big Sur right there, boom, so it is a special place too, and pretty crazy that mudslide that they had, huh? They just wiped out the whole. They're all isolated.
Oh, it just it's. I don't know what they're going to do with that. They're going to have to. I don't know if they can really fix that thing. It's going to have to be engineered with metal and.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a whole mountain is weak. It's just going to be that way for probably years. I don't know what they can do.
Yeah, and they were already isolated with the bridge failure, and it was like people were having to have food and supplies sent over by.
They were hiking on that one trail to get back and forth there. They had made a trail for them.
Yeah, and they had to bring stuff back and forth with like zip line style things, you know what I mean, to get everybody to get food and stuff. So I was like, wow. And then that happened, so now they're kind of like totally isolated in this. Anybody if you lived in between those two things, you are shit out of luck right there, you know what I mean?
You're shit out of luck right now, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing, and it it kind of just shows you where America's at though, engineering wise and stuff. Like a lot of our stuff is literally hanging on by a thread anyway, you know what I mean? And you get one thing like that.
That's true.
And cuts off the entire spot there. Places like Louisiana.
People don't realize it. I mean, that's your only way, and then when that goes out, man, you're pretty much stuck.
We had it here with the floods a couple years ago. People were definitely trapped. Like, I know Scott from Rare Dankness was well trapped. He couldn't get past. There's certain people who are just like, oh shit, now what do we do? The road's washed out. It's like, not much, you can't do much.
That's true.
Yeah. So and so you've been doing any indoor gardening over the years? Has it been pretty much outdoors, or?
I'm pretty much outdoor. If I ever do any indoor, I do a little small seed increase on my landrace.
Yeah.
If I can't do it, or we don't have time to do it outdoor.
Gotcha.
I'll do a little bit in there.
Did you finishing, or you do the whole?
I'm growing some Ghana this year. There was some real old seeds from Ghana, and I only got let me see, 1, 2, 3. I got 6 to germinate, and 3 are real vigorous, and then the other ones are marginal at best. So then they still haven't sexed. So I'm hoping I can get a male and a female. But if not, I'll be happy to work with whatever I have. They're very slender leaf, dark green, real beautiful. I've had those for 12 years, I think, and I just never got around to doing them. I had them put in my box, and finally said, "Man, I've got to get in there and organize all this stuff." I found things in there I didn't even remember what I had. It's just pathetic when you think about it. But, so I got them more organized now, and then I'm working on doing a lot of these things, and at least making seed. I can put them away for a few years and then full with them later. But I mean, if you let them go too long, I mean, I've tried a lot of things on some of these old ones, and they just don't germinate. I mean, they'll start in, and then they just stall on you, and they just die.
Right, and you try obviously gibberellic acid and all that.
I mean, tried all that stuff.
Yeah.
I even tried. A buddy of mine told me, he says,
Aspirin.
"Get your no, not that." He says, "Get your pinto beans and soak them overnight, and the water's going to be kind of yellow.
Yeah.
And take your beans out, and then soak your seeds in that. Had something in there, and I did have about 20% luck on that. I have to say, but
sounds
it's just
sounds
a
proper.
weird. It's just a weird way to do it. And then plus, I always treat my seeds, even my own, with a slight drop or two in a bottle with peroxide, just in case there's any pathogens on the seed husk."
Yep.
And then go on from there.
Jumping back again to Big Sur Holy, because I had a couple things I wanted to ask you since you were there.
Sure.
Chamba, you remember Chamba?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now does that have any? Because is that part of the lineage? Because I feel like it's that Malawi.
No.
No. Okay, because it's one of those things where I'm
not
trying.
That
yeah. You don't think so?
That Chamba is. In fact, we're still trying to find that original one. My buddy was one of the guys that went over and got some and brought those cobs back.
Right.
In the 70s, and that was some of the nicest herb, right up there with the holy weed.
Right. Okay.
But it got degraded. But
yeah, so it was different. Okay, because Mojave and I, Mo's the guy from Big Sur because his brother was growing strains, but it was basically classified by how good it was, really. It was really AA, AAA. I mean, nobody was really throwing names around that at that time. And then we just obviously always kept seeds from the AAA and brought those out to Amsterdam, and that's where we did our selection for the sage. And so it was kind of like there was a lot of unknowns there. And then we met one of the guys who was his brother's partner back in the day, and he was mentioning the Chamba. So we were like trying to figure out, because we don't know, once you got a AAA, it could have been this, it could have been that, you know what I mean? And it was but everything at that time that got down to Santa Cruz was Big Sur Holy from that crowd, you know what I mean? So it was kind of one of those.
Yeah, when we first saw that, when it first came in, this guy was coming by. I don't even remember who that was. It was a friend of a friend, and he came over to the house and he had this big, huge rose box. And I said, "What the hell's that, man?" He says, "Check it out." Open that thing up, and it's big spears, holy weed, in rose boxes, and that's his little marketing thing he was doing. And it was the most gorgeous shit you ever saw in your life. Man, it comes in there and it's sitting in these big, huge rose boxes, thin rose boxes, where you'd have like 5 stalks of your holy weed. Anyway, I just flashed on that. It was just a kind of a funny thing. Not many people even know that, but
right. But that's the thing too. Now it's like it's all about marketing, you know what I mean? Back in the day, some people, you couldn't help it because everybody's proud of if they're weed, right? So you always wanted to somehow make your mark, but at the same time, you also knew that if you did that, you're kind of like leaving a trail for them to find you, So it's kind of always like, not the smartest move in the world, but there's people who did it, you know what I mean? And which is good. And I remember thinking when I saw like those first Cali kind of brands that where people were kind of like, the first, like with logos and with the home. I remember the one with the truck full of weed into the thing, and I was like, "Oh, this is it." They're marketing. People were starting to market their shit But it was like
they were thinking about it, and they were doing pretty good. Some of them.
Some of them were, and they definitely like.
Yeah.
You would stand out obviously, but then at the end of the day, it's like, well, wait a minute, maybe we don't really want to stand out actually.
We don't really want to know. No, I remember one of the guys that were growing the haze in the old days. I didn't really know them, but this one guy had heard about me. I was still up in Bonnie Doon. I was pretty much reclusive up there. I didn't get out much. Anyway, we met. I finally went and met one of the guys and shared some herb with him, and he was all about wanting to be known and stuff, and just I wasn't. I just wasn't into it. It just didn't appeal to me at all. It just wasn't healthy. Let's just say that.
Sure.
Yeah, but we got to share some good information and smoke some of his haze, and he smoked some of that hash plant I was telling you that came out of that hash.
Literally hash plant.
That was funny.
Literally hash plant at that point.
I told him, I says, you don't take too big a hit on that. He says, hey man, I've been smoking this shit for years. Like, okay, go ahead.
Straight Cheech and Chong.
Take your big toke.
Right.
He broke out into a sweat, man, and got all red and almost passed out. Some of that shit would make you almost pass out. It's too strong. That's why I don't smoke it, man. I don't know, man. I mean, that weed is too strong for me.
Right.
Even today, I probably wouldn't want to smoke it.
Well, I mean,
but some people want that big narcotic hit. I mean, that's everybody's different.
Well, the thing is, like,
I like the sativa stuff.
When you get, but the thing is, with an extreme sativa, it can be just as weird and even more uncomfortable in a strange of way. If you're in the wrong place. That's the thing in Amsterdam that I loved, is that people would come into there's a coffee shop there called the Katsu. A friend of mine's been running for years, and another friend of mine's a manager there. But it's like you go in and they have pretty much the best haze selection in Amsterdam, because the owners are true like stoners who really like weed, whereas a lot of the coffee shop owners are just guys who like money and whatever. But so their hazes are always on point. But I'd watch so many.
You think they're real?
Oh yeah, they have good ones, because they got it from Neville. I mean, they have Neville's, and but they've been doing it since that shop's been there since I think around mid '80s, like mid to late '80s, and they were there when they were there at the right moment, right time, and appreciated weed enough that they got hold of some good. And they had a couple good growers who just been nailing it for years, because that was the thing. It's like in Amsterdam, people actually pay more for longer flowering plants because they understand it costs more money, because everything there is so.
They understand the.
Well, it's critical, what I mean? Like, rent is important. Everything there is expensive. Everything's more expensive. Space is more expensive. Power is more expensive. So
I haven't been able to locate any haze seeds here. I don't know if anybody really has any. I've even called some of my old crony friends from years back, and most of them, one of the gals used to trim for them, and she doesn't have any. I maybe should think about maybe getting some of those one day, and I'd like to grow those again.
Now I'm sure your people out there be listening. I'm sure someone's got one. That's the thing.
Somebody's got it. Somebody's got it. Maybe they're listening. They go, hey, I got some of those. I had a contact.
Exactly. And all of a sudden you'll be at a show, and someone's going to roll up and say, I heard you're looking for these. That makes the whole show worth it right there, right? So.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, the haze varieties, the main problem is the fact that it takes a lot of seed to find the real one. If you're going from seed, it's not really easy to get the right out of the gate, boom, because they're
super phenos. Yeah,
they're just very finicky. You know what I mean? Even when I worked for Sensi, when I was selling any haze crosses, I would tell people it's going to be a little tougher on the selection, because you're going to have freakouts and mutants and weirdness, which will be easy to spot, but then you're going to have ones that are like, they all seem pretty good, but then all of a sudden you have to really take into account what they, the weight that they put off, and the finish. A lot of them just don't want to finish, which is really the hardest part of it all.
That's the one of the drawbacks. Yeah, they just take forever. They just don't want to. They'll start to finish and then they stall.
Well, yeah, and they'll start to get white again. All the hairs will start getting white again, and you'll be like, oh no, it's going into it's like phase 2 now, and then it kind of kills the flavor. That you can't time it properly, so you end up with like a half a plant that's mature and the other half that's and so it is one of those trickier. I had one when I had a haze that I brought into a room here in Colorado, and it was like it just sat in the corner, and it like cycle after cycle went through there, and it just never it was at one point they were like, this is the big
really
they were just like, because they couldn't tweak the hours on the room, because you really got to go a 13 like 11 situation to kind of even get it close to finishing. And these guys are all locked in on a 12-12 giant grow, so they're just pretty much like putting 8 weekers in there, And I was just like, yeah, try this one, but it wasn't working. You know what I mean? And they basically, because it kept just growing, kind of flower, grow flower, grow flower, grow flower, but it wouldn't even dense up, or it just kind of stayed fluffy. And you know, it is one of the most disappointing grows, but it can be the most satisfying grow too if you could just nail it. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, the reason I even called today was James Seeds,
from Seeds
friend of mine, and he said, "Hey, you want to get on Adam Dunn?" I said, "Well, yeah, sure."
Yeah, I know. We really give people a lot of notice, right? Like, you want to be on the show, like now? It's like
it's cool. I mean, I feel good today. My health hasn't been the best in the last couple of years, but I'm getting better. But
glad you're having a good day.
But anyway, today's a good day, and it's a perfect day to maybe share some information. But we got some new lines that are going to be released, and he's going to be handling them pretty quick. Actually, one of them is the four-way. That's a friend of mine. Is a librarian for all these rare cuts. He's my partner, actually, friend too. And to make the long story short, I basically just fooled with landrace and heirlooms. And he said, we ought to put some stuff together and see what we can come up with, some of your old stuff and some of these rare cuts. So I had these original Northern Light #1. And I got from my friend up in Oregon. It's classic seeds, actually. And I did a seed increase for him because he didn't have time and had a lot of restrictions at the time. So I did a large seed increase, and I think I got like five phenos that I did, and I made a bunch of different seed. But anyway, out of 100 and what did we get? 150 plants. We found one stinky killer, the baddest male out of the Northern Lights 1. So anyway, that's what we crossed with a few of these rare cuts, which one of them is that four-way, which is it's a 95 release from Cincy.
Yeah.
You probably remember that one.
I was working there.
Yeah,
actually, I just quit there. No, I was working. I had my own spot at that point. But the other four was always a pretty damn good indica. Yeah.
It's pretty darn nice. It had a really good flavor, I thought.
Kind of chalky too, which I like. Has like a chalky kind of thing, which I always appreciated because it kind of that I felt was because whenever it gets like a sweet tone or anything like that, it's like no, that has that real like acrid kind of thing.
Yeah. One thing I was kind of surprised. The makeup of it: Northern Lights haze, skunk, and ruderalis. I was surprised they had put ruderalis in there. I didn't really realize that.
That's weird too, because they used to have.
It is weird because I don't think much of those, but I mean, I shouldn't really say that because I've never really fooled with them, but it sure worked with that one.
Well, they were really into it at that moment in time, and I remember one of the crosses that they had there, which is their Ruderalis indica, they called it, but it was NL5 times Ruderalis. I was like, that is like the most extreme like quality versus you have like one, so you'd end up with like really 50-50 going down the line of. Some stuff was leaning, like flowered really quick and did its own thing, and that was the Ruderalis dominant ones. And then the other ones that went at a normal time, those were the NL ones. So in a way, they were like the best deal because they were like 25 guilders for like 20 seeds or something like that. I was like, man, these are the cheap because you got half of what you want right in there. The other half you don't.
What a value.
Yeah. So I kept telling people, I was steering people towards those all the time, just like. Even though you might not like it, because I mean, Ruderalis, I was scared. I didn't want to bring it into my gene pool at all because I was like,
me neither.
And now you know what it seems like. If you notice, there's a lot of males that never stop flowering now. They just kind of go on their own, and it might just be a fact that it's in there fucking up our shit because. I've got a lot of times where I get a male.
Very well could be.
Got a lot of times males that just are like, "Are you kidding me? It's on 24 hours of light." You know, I mean, I'm trying everything to keep it from fucking throwing flowers, and it'll just keep going. It'll just keep going, and you're like, "Huh?
Yeah.
You know, is this because is it got Ruderalis in it? It shouldn't. You know what I mean? And then, but that's the problem. Is a lot of the stuff like Sensi things like that. If you take like, I didn't even know they put Ruderalis in. That's kind of weird because I kind of remember being. And the funny part is they listed it as a four-way hybrid of our best indicas, right? So obviously not a Ruderalis is not your best indica, you know. So that's some bad advertising. No, I remember being pretty. I had some friends who were killing it out there, and they did really good with it. But it just always made me nervous of adding it in.
Yeah.
Because once it's in, you know what I mean? And that's it.
Yeah, it's in there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I was surprised. And then another one we're releasing now is the Puck.
Oh, really?
The Puck, we call it.
Oh.
Pacific Northwest Hash Plant by Pinsky.
Uh-huh.
Northern Lights 1 hash plant. It was I think, in 1986. 25% Northern Lights and 75 hash plant. The Puck.
Right.
That's a great. That's a really nice one. It's also called Scully hash plant. You probably heard of that.
Of course. Of course. That's great. Yeah, it's great.
I just finished cleaning a bunch of the seed, and we had a little problem up at the ranch and lost our power and stuff with all the storms, and couldn't get diesel, and I won't get into it too much. It kind of fucked everything up. But so anyway, the amount of seed we got was limited.
Right.
But we do have quite a bit of seed. It should have been a lot more, but I mean, we're happy to even get what we got. But
gotcha.
We did release a little bit of that at the Emerald Cup last year, and it sold out. I don't think we had too many packs, but everybody liked it.
Nice.
Bodie grew out a little bit of it, and it turned out really, really nice. I was very impressed with it. Actually, so many different phenos of skunk and some leathery, kind of earthy, different, to be a lot of fun things to really search for.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is everybody's like, I mean, we are obviously as breeders all kind of working towards some sort of homogenous thing, but at the same time, it's actually literally the differences that make it interesting as a grower, because it would really suck if everything was like really on point and going and like, oh, this is what it is.
Yeah, no, that's true.
You get nothing but that, you know what I mean? Because that's kind of where people kind of think they want to be, but I think at the end of the day they'd be like wishing for the old days when everything was a little different. And that's kind of where my feminized you do any feminized stuff, or you kind of
I really don't. I haven't done any feminized.
Yeah. And it's funny because I personally don't myself. Just I played around with it a little bit, and then I was just kind of like, you know what, I'll let other people just run with this, because that's what I can see people getting all nuts over it. And
I guess it markets well. I mean, everybody's the guys that sell over there, they say, oh yeah, man, it's feminized, you need to make them.
Of course. Well, in Europe,
it's people like them. I don't know. It's a preference. I mean, I'm sure.
In Europe, it's about 80% of people want feminized, and that
they want feminine.
Yeah,
jeez, really. It's unbelievable.
It's strange. And then over in America, it's kind of the opposite. I'd say about 80% want regular, because they're still kind of like trying to make their mark. You know what I mean? Everybody understands that if you pop a bean, you have a good chance of finding something that nobody's really got at this point in time, or maybe had 20 years ago, or who knows. That's the cool part about popping old beans, especially, is kind of like cracking the code, seeing what's there. And there's so many.
It's exciting. You don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah, and also, I mean, there's so many flavor profiles that haven't really been kind of utilized, taken advantage of by anybody mostly because of the flowering time. I mean, that's my biggest complaint. People have, if it's over 10 weeks, I can't do it. You're like, really? Well, then you're like cutting yourself off on a whole lot of good shit out there, because that's
you're limiting yourself on a lot of good genetics. You just got to be patient. Basically, being an older guy. I mean, I was impatient when I was younger. And my dad always used to tell me, "Man, you need to learn patience." Yeah, I don't want to pull that. And then later on in life, I'm going, well, anyways, right on, man. I think about it now, and if he was alive today, now I go, but Dad, you were right, man. Patience is an important thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and growing is like literally it's pretty fast once you start to like think about it in the bigger scheme of things. Because you'll have a dog for 10, 12 years, but you have a plant for a few months, and you can't wait to cut the thing down. But it's like at the same time you'll have everything else in perspective. When you start looking at it, it's like things go quick, especially if you're doing it indoors, because it's nonstop. You know what I mean? You just keep going 24/7.
Yeah, exactly.
Year round. Outdoors, of course, that's the breeding. That's where breeding has changed, I think, too. Where if you only do outdoor work, you really have to be. Someone has to be there for all those years in a row. It can't be like handed down really easily, because there's so much stuff in flux, and it's a year-long process compared to 5 times in a year or 4 times in a year. If you're like,
Yeah, it's that's true.
Do you have a team?
I have a passion for it.
Do you have other people working with you though, or you kind of how's your?
No, we have my partner who you met up there at the Emerald Cup.
Yeah.
And then I do my projects down here in town. At my house, I do my land race and seed increases, and do some small projects. And some I don't do a lot of grow outs. We put those out to gardeners that have a lot of experience to test them out for us and everything. So,
right.
And then we do some ourselves elsewhere, but I have a small area, but it's plenty to do like a large seed increase, like the Burmese. I should have quite a few seed off that. I've got I think I've got 28 females. I don't know how many males I'm going to have, but just going to let them rip. It'll be a nice inbred population, and because I was running low on that seed, I've had that seed for probably 10 years,
right,
at least.
Yeah,
time to do it.
I'm doing it. I have a Burmese Kush that we do, and the Burmese male that was stinkier than most females. You know, is one of those like, oh well, we got to do something with this. There's no way around.
Yeah,
that,
it's a special one.
Yeah, and no, it was definitely a good producer, and it's also interesting too when you're making seed how like some strains just like don't produce nice looking seeds. They're just ugly and.
No, they don't. They don't. I mean, some of them are puny seeds. They don't like the holy wheat or the Burmese. Those are big seeds. A lot of the landrace Mexicans are nice big seeds.
Yeah, of course, because that was all the weight. That was half the weight was seeds. Mexican half the weight was seeds sometimes, right? So you're like, those seeds are really healthy, no problem. But yeah, ties and things like that always tend to have a lot of mostly what I tell people when it comes to seed size, because it's like. You know, people are always like, "Oh, bigger seed is better," and I'm like, a lot of times big seeds equal like very large bracts, but not so many of them. You know what I mean? And then with the smaller seeds, you end up getting these really stacked sativas with tons and tons and tons of calyxes. You know what I mean? Where they're just like, okay, well, it's kind of more relevant on the structure of the bud than anything. And bigger's not always better. A lot of like ruderalis makes humongous seeds. Like like they look like cantaloupes or something. You're like, oh, these are going to be great.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, it's basically hemp at this point. You know what I mean? And there's some Chinese. Actually, the biggest seeds I think I've ever seen are from Chinese hemp that Rob Clark brought back. That were just these monsters. You know what I mean? They were so big, but they were bred there for fish bait. So they would basically
for yes, I got you. They had a bit bred just a different aspect for it.
And they were looking mostly for fish bait because people could put it on a hook, because it was so seed wise. But and the plants produced not a lot of weight, but they definitely had really impressive like looking flowers because they were just giant calyxes, prehistoric looking or something.
Yeah.
So no ruderalis. That's good.
Yeah, so I got just two more here, and then I'll be done with this.
Go for it.
We're doing the Triangle Kush,
awesome.
Crossed with that same Northern Lights 1, Florida cut.
Yeah.
We've had super good reports on that one. And the one that I'm really excited about is the fourth one here is the Black Domina from Sensi Seed. Yeah, that's...
She stacks.
Pacific Northwest hash plant.
She stacks very well, and that's actually a really.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's an easy plant to
grow.
I
love that strain.
I wouldn't say it's easy, but
not
it's definitely
not that easy, but it's a super one for me to relax at night. I love that plant. Just the pure one, the Domino.
Right.
It's a great one. We're going to be working with. We have other ones. Actually, I'm going to be cleaning some Panama Red that. From 72, that's a 2-to-1 CBD dominant line, and those are going to be. I'll be starting to clean those soon here in the next week or two. We're going to have those released probably by the Emerald Cup. I'm hoping to have 2 or 3 landrace strains pure to let go. The Burmese is going to be one, probably. Not probably, but the Panama Red is going to be another. And I may let go of some of my Durban landrace that I have. Not the Durban poison, but the Durban. I really probably should do a seed increase again. I've had those a while. When I got those from South Africa, those were the smallest seeds I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
I mean, they were the teeniest black seeds I've ever seen. And I've never had anything that small.
How was the germination on them? Was it good, or was it?
Well, I didn't really get that many. I mean, I had 5 and 3 germinated. That's all the lady could send me, and
Right.
one was a male and two females.
Well.
I kept the seed separate, and I have them in different vials, 10 and 9 or whatever.
Right.
And one firms up a little bit better as far as the buds, and it's got that typical smell. And then the other one is not quite as tight a bud. It's a little bit airier.
Right.
But the pheno is the smell is just phenomenal. They're both really nice. Anyway,
Seems like Durban though. The sad part is that most people don't really know what a kind of a real Durban is, because there's so much stuff called Durban that has got nothing to do with it. Sometimes you're like, what? Why would they? Like, there's a cut that goes around here in Colorado. They call it Durban, and it's like, it basically smells like a jack.
What do you think it is?
It's like a Jack Harrer. It's like a Jack Harrer cross of some sort, because it's got that classic, like, you can't get away from that smell. Like that. I don't know what's happened with Jack Harrer, but that smell kind of has dominated this scene now of anybody who has something that they think is special, and they don't really have anything special because it's coming from the lower gene pool of whatever that everybody has, and you're like, so I feel like it's almost like when you put too many strains together, you end up with that flavor. Like, it's like, ugh. Because the original Jack, which I think we're going to do a show in the near future, like kind of go back, because it's not that long ago. I mean, they got introduced in 94, but between 1994 and now, it's changed a bit, because the original one was phenomenal. The one from Sensi, was amazing, but it was also an 11-way hybrid. So you're like, okay, well, 11-way hybrids are
11-way hybrids. Wow.
definitely going to be variable, you know what I mean? But then when you also start thinking, you also start thinking, well, 11-way hybrid also means it kind of is that like super mutt, at that point. So you're like, okay, I think you can overdo it. I think you can overbreed, like take it too far. And when you do that, you kind of come up to this like default setting of Jack Harrer. It's like, that's it. There you go. You're like, damn, But if you just, it's like you painted it you put too many layers of paint on, You're just like, you ruined it.
Yeah, exactly.
It was great until you put that last coat on. Now it sucks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
other projects we got going. They're not finished being tested. Is the M10, the actual Afghani number 1, the old one.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, those we got some crosses of those coming too. Hopefully they turn out good. They always do. They don't always turn out good, but we're hoping for the best.
And when you
we got a lot of things in the fire right now.
When you got all these old Dutch genetics back in the day, were you ordering them from online like Super Sativa Seed Club and Sensi and all that? Were you going over?
You know what? I really didn't order much from them. I mean, I ordered I ordered some seeds from what was this guy? It was called
Gypsy Nirvana.
It was no, it's this kind of a reclusive guy. My buddy knows him. I'd like to meet him one of these days. It's called Bahia Blackhead. You know who that guy is?
No, I don't.
It's a Brazilian strain, KC Brains.
Oh, KC Brains. Oh, yeah. I actually know KC Brains pretty well. Yeah,
he has a killer line.
It's really.
I don't know if you get
the KC36 was the one that got really popular. I think that was the one that really stood out amongst
Did you ever get to meet that guy or what?
Oh, many times. Yeah, he was usually drunk when I met him.
Oh yeah,
he was usually really drunk, and he was riding his motorcycle. And I was like, I don't know how that guy gets home every time, because he'd be like stumbling drunk coming into the show. And I do know that it was funny with him. I remember like sitting around talking, and we were talking about techniques and growing and things, and he was really hammered, and he goes like, we were at some sort of like hash bash type thing, and he's like, I just fucking got 8 plants, I throw them in the backyard, I bring a mailing, I slap it in there, and I was like, okay, you shouldn't probably tell everybody this is your technique, you know what I mean?
Shit.
And he was like, I don't give a fuck, and he was like, and I think he just did that for year after year, and he had like 8 plants in the backyard that he just nailed, and it was like, in Holland in a little tiny apartment kind of thing, and then he drove a Harley and was like, try to be a badass, and he was a little skinny, small guy who drank a lot. So it was kind of like, okay, this is definitely, a little different idea than, a little different style than we were. I was a little hippie kid.
But I'll tell you that Bahia Blackhead is a good strain. That's would finish out brown, but really strong though, and I really enjoyed it. I'd probably like to grow it again one day. I still have some. I gave some seed to a buddy of mine. He made some a couple years ago, but it was a good line. I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
And a couple that I grew. Another one. I didn't really get that many from over there. I grew another one called the Slider.
Oh yeah, from Tony from Sagamore. That's Tony.
Jesus, that was nice. That was a nice one. I enjoyed that.
Slider was really good.
Plant.
Slider was good. It was also did the pheno that you pulled, did it have like very little hairs on it? It was like really just calyxy, like just very.
Yeah.
It was nice. It was one of those plants that when you grew it, you were like, it was a little like it flopped around a little bit, but it was like everything that was on it was beautiful. You know what I mean? Where some plants, it's only like a top layer that looks really good and everything underneath.
Yeah.
So that one.
I guess they improved it and came out with one called Mongolian indigo or something like that.
Yeah. Tony was a good friend of mine.
I don't know, but.
He's from Nebraska.
Cool.
He worked at Sensi. He worked at Sensi right after, like basically I worked at Sensi, then I got him a job at the Hash Museum, and then he started working for them, and then we both went and started our own seed companies after. So it was kind of
it's kind of cool you met all those guys over there, man. I mean, a lot of good contacts, and some are better than others, of course. But
and sometimes
it's kind of a nice experience.
It is, and it's like looking behind the curtain a little bit sometimes too, because obviously. Yeah. Even being drunk on a Harley, riding around and slapping plants together, you can pull something off. You know what I mean? As long as you no good weed, really, is what it was. And that was the thing. That was the name of my old company because my first company there was called CIA, which meant Cannabis in Amsterdam, and everybody got kind of freaked out because our logo was a CIA logo with a joint hanging out of the bird's mouth. That was about the only thing that was different. But then the second name, because we changed it, was KGB, which was no good bud, and that's pretty much been my thing for years. It's just like, if you know what good weed is, you can hone in on it if you're a grower. You know what I mean? If you don't have some people, they want to grow, but they don't even know what good weed is to begin with. You know what I mean? It's like, first of all,
no, that's true.
And you have to have a good starting point. So, and everybody falls in love with their first plant, which is always a nightmare. Because even Arian from the greenhouse, I had a great story with him one time when I was working at Sensi. He would come in and sell clones to customers. They'd want to buy, and he didn't have a shop, and he didn't have a seed company, he didn't have anything at the time. He was just a rich kid who grew weed. You know what I mean? So I was like, and he came in every day, and he would buy like a shitload of fertilizer because we were selling it concentrated, where it would make about 2,500 liters at a time, and he was buying like 10 at a time. And I was like, who is this guy? You know what I mean? This guy's definitely doing something, right? And they were like, oh yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, right.
But he brought in these clones one time because we were like, oh, we need some clones, and I will bring them in. And he brought them in, and we all I remember like six of us he opened up the box, and like six of us kind of like peered into the box, and they were just like pathetic little like yellow, terrible looking clones.
Oh God!
And he was like, "It's from my very first plant," and
oh no!
And he's been still growing it for years, and it's just like it was so it was just like. It was one of those things where it was like, maybe you shouldn't hang on to the first plant you ever grew in your life. You know what I mean? Maybe you should actually grow.
Yeah, there's more out there.
But actually, at that moment, what he cared about the most was that it made the most clones. I remember he was like, I make 2,000 clones on one plant. And I'm like, that's cool, because he had just been growing it like it was like a tree at this point. And so he was doing it, doing it in hydro and just making a shitload of clones. And I was like, yeah, but maybe you should have something a little, because I remember when we grew it out, it was like it was garbage. You know what I mean? And we were like, what is this? This is not good. And we're working at Sensi Seeds at the time too, all of us. So it was like, I don't know why we just took these in, but there's a million clone disaster stories I think out there. That's one of the reasons why I think people who grow from seed or have always kind of thought that in that pattern have always been the ones I wanted to talk to anyway, because they have to like respect the line and keep it rolling and keep it somehow in check. Whereas when you're doing clones from other people and stuff, you think they're going to give it to you perfect every time, and it's about 40% of the time it's perfect. You know what I mean? 60% of the time it's like, is this the right thing? Or I had it from Soma one time. He gave me a tray of clones, and he had he didn't know, but he'd sent me like 3 males in it or something. So I was like, oh no, this is not good. You know what I mean? And then it was just like, well, fuck, now what am I going to do? You know what I mean? And he's like, don't worry about it. I'll buy the seeds off of you. And then they were like those thin casings on them. They didn't really like. Sometimes you get seeds where they don't look like they're even done yet. They're kind of like flat on both sides,
Yeah.
and they get like a little bit.
Yeah.
And these things just would pop. So basically, in the end, I got fucked. I was like, I got nothing. I was like, got a bunch of broken up seeds. But yeah, you can.
Yeah.
You can screw each other.
Hey,
over
Winnie, I'm going to probably have to get going here.
No, it's
but
perfect time.
I wanted to give a big pump for James Seeds here now. Guy's a great guy. Met him at the Emerald Cup 2 or 3 years ago from John Snow High. Do you know him?
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Yeah, he's a super good friend of mine.
Great.
And we do projects together when we can. But anyway, maybe hope to see you this coming Emerald Cup if you can make it.
Yeah, and you know that this July show has now been canceled, right? The summertime Emerald Cup thing they were doing.
It's been canceled?
Yeah. Big announcement.
What happened?
I think it was just a combination of I mean, the idea of
too much going on.
It's one of those things where, as a grower, as considering that everybody within the organization are growers or former growers or friends of growers or working with growers, it's kind of like the worst time of year for anybody to get shit done because everybody's so stressed out with getting things in and done right.
Yeah,
this year's
true,
been
then.
And this year has been such a slow year that I think a lot of people put in stuff late, so they didn't even have stuff in until last month. If that, some of them, some of them are still putting stuff in because the ground was so wet they couldn't put. So I think it's just been a combo of like the nature was against them a little bit, and then just didn't see. I don't think they saw the ticket sales that they were thinking, and they were also working with a real proper organization that's kind of like running numbers every day, probably like looked at it and just looked at it from a situation of like don't want to take the risk instead of putting people out. So apparently it has been fully canceled, which kind of sucks because we were all planning on being there, and that was going to be my launch of some new stuff also. And I was like, okay, this is changed up. Are you going to be in Boston by any chance? You're not going to you're not doing anything like that, right?
No, I'm not going to Boston. Yeah, I mean I just can't really do more than that, just that one show there. I mean,
yeah, it's close enough
last
to
year it was grueling. I mean, it was a 6 deep. I was there for the weekend, and I met a lot of good people. I met some people that grew our Coastal Haze is one of my favorites. That's the holy weed crossed with the Hazy Kush from Green Bodie up in Oregon, and beautiful plant. He came from Hawaii and showed me what he grew over in Hawaii, and was just impressed.
Beautiful.
And it was nice. I got to see, there was like 4 phenos he had, and gorgeous. And he says, man, they just do great over here. I want to compliment you on this. And then we talked a little bit about it, and he bought some more seeds, and I met some people from Argentina and Chile, and a couple other people from Hawaii that grew some things. And when you meet some really cool people, you make some good connections, which I even more so than selling the seeds, to be honest, because
it's great to meet.
I hope to go down to I hope to go down to South America, Chile, and see this guy one of these days. There was a few people in Trinidad that came over and wanted to maybe do some stuff over there. It's interesting. I'd like to maybe one of these days do some projects with them, if possible. It'd be kind of nice to share some genetics and do some projects.
And there is a trade show that goes on in Chile, so I can talk to the guys who will organize it and see if we can get you down there at the right time of year so you can meet all these people. Keep me
posted on that, because I'd really be interested in that.
Yeah, because it's
when would that be?
It's in their summer, so it's obviously our winter, I guess. It's one of those. It's one of
the.
Cool. I think they're on like the 3rd or 4th year now, and definitely it would be great to go down and do some investigating for some new strains while you're there. And they're super right now. The thing about South America is just like the next whole other area that people aren't even paying attention to, but it's happening just as much there as it is anywhere else. And there's some beautiful strains down there. Well, that's the thing is they have it's like they're living in it's just how California is to America, where the rest of America looks to Cali because they got the perfect climate. They got they've always had the history, the genetics are there, and then when you go to South America, it's like, wait a minute, well, that's actually where now we're getting closer to the source, you know what I mean? And
Exactly.
so you know the environment is perfect also, which is very hard to replicate, you know. That's impossible.
Yeah, that's true. I still have, and I have been working with some Colombian genetics from down there that are very impressive. They're 24, 26 week
Wow.
plants, and I usually cross them with an indica, and I've been working with a couple of them. They're beautiful plants.
Wow. Yeah.
And the gene pool is just, I mean, I'm gonna have to cut this short.
Oh, I know. I'm not trying to keep
But some of these places, I mean, the genetics are down there, but it's tough to get to. Parts of Africa, you
Sure.
can't go anymore, and
it's only getting
South
harder.
America, part of that. I mean, it's they got the fucking gang cartel down there and shit. And
Yeah, everywhere there was
And I
good weed is
usually,
definitely tough places. Even Thailand, all these places, or not really Thailand, but Laos or places like that. Also, everywhere is just like somehow coincidentally not the easiest places to get to anymore. But it's also because a lot of those places are heroin spots now too. So that's the difference. It's all opium poppers.
yeah, so that kind of turns off everything. So that's kind of a
And on that note, let's finish this one so you can get back to what you got to do. And we'll see you definitely at the Emerald Cup at the December show for sure. And I'll keep
Sounds
you.
good. Good talking with you, brother. And,
I'll keep you posted on that other
pump
show.
For James, seeds here now.
Yep, seeds here now. Of course, we're going to be just about to do our ads right now too. So, take care, man. Nice talking to you.
All right.
Peace.
All right. Take care. Peace.
It's always nice getting people on who actually have been growing since 1969. You're like, that's good. Then this guy's seen it all, which also survived this long. You know what I mean? So that's good. That's a ode to some serious organized skill. You have to be organized to be able to not get in trouble. Of course, we never talked about it. Maybe you did. You never know down the road. But in general, not getting in trouble is one of the main things, and keeping your genes rolling year after year and having some sort of a picture, probably mostly in his head, 99%, because that's how we roll. Nobody's making a map for everybody.
Right.
And then, and now be able to benefit on it just because of the fact that you're still connected to the old world, which is, like I said, a lot of people had a lot of weed come through, but not a lot of people kept seeds of the right things at the right time, So there's
they weren't thinking for the future there.
No, so it's a good idea to do that. But now the problem is you get weed that's, unless you're getting the imported weed, you're pretty much getting a recombination, if it's just something that's random, it still could be good. And that's the thing, it's also if you remember when you put it into that little jar, it's it makes way more sense to you than if you just find a random thing. But if you're oh yeah, I put that one in after that concert and I was so baked, you know what I mean? So then you kind of have a mental picture there of what to work with. And that's actually the hardest part of it is fucking, what is it? You're growing all different things. Speaking of which, let's make some ads. I don't even know why I say speaking of which, but speaking of whatever, let's talk about our sponsors. Let's talk about, we lost a sponsor. Just so everyone knows, no more Grow Stone. Just so you know. Just so you know.
Just so you know.
Apparently, we were supposed to have cut the contract a long time ago, but they didn't. We didn't ever get any communication. So, still love those guys. Everything's fine, but we're changing their management, doing some flip flopping. Kind of like Way to Grow was, same thing.
Yeah.
And now Way to Grow sales are way down. So, see, I don't know if it's directly connected to the Adam Dunn show, but apparently,
of course,
the owner's having to pump his own money into the company just to keep it afloat. So there you go, guys. Do not ever not advertise with me. No, I'm just kidding. New Millennium. These guys are going nowhere. They're going places, but they're not going off the show. That's for sure. They are our main guys in the nutrient world here in Colorado as far as homegrown, brought to you by also guys who have been in the industry for a long time here, which I'm going to get on the show at some point. Apparently Neil's going to come. We've just got to work him out. But this guy's been around for a long time, and he's putting it together nice and professional, also basing it on the seasons, which I like because it makes it kind of easy to know where you're at in the program. But he's also got a couple new products coming out, a new foliar soon. Hopefully, I'm still getting handwritten on thing. So I know that's the good shit. Just boom, need to try it. So that's the good stuff. But soon it'll be available to the public, and they also have the new carbo load kind of thing coming in, but it's called not called carbo load, of course.
No.
Can't do that. Also going to get them on the show soon. Talk about some other new products that they got, and you can check them out at New Millennium Nutrients, right?
Yep, newmillenniumnutrients.com, and
Good.
looks like they're working on their website right now, and they're working on having a nutrient calculator.
Okay, good.
And nutrient feed charts, additive
See?
range and base nutrient range stuff coming soon here. So.
Good. Oh, well, yeah, I know that the guy who's on point with that stuff is the dude that was on our show before, Sam. He is grinding away right now. I can guarantee you.
Looks good.
It looks good,
The
right?
new website looks good so far.
Yep. All new look there. And Jeremy, Build a Soil, making everybody lives easier by bringing them the best products for the cultivation of cannabis in the world. I can see, like raw materials that you need to use. Build your own soil, or talk to him about something that he has already done. On top of that, you can get super hard to find stuff, things that actually you can source all in one space, which is great. And yeah, they're there. See, Grow Stone still is getting advertised because they sell Grow Stone. See, so that was the whole point in the very beginning anyways, creating those networks, which is basically what you're trying to do in the soils, create a good rhizosphere, create a good network, and you can get great mycorrhizal products. You can get your IPM. You can get any product that you think you like. It's great when you look at his stuff. It's like everything you can't get in a normal grow shop. Maybe one or two items, but most of it's just like very exclusive. And the customer service is the best from them. They are on point. Everybody who works for them knows what they're talking about, so you don't have to only talk to Jeremy, which would be crazy because he's always busy, that guy. But you can call 844-877-SOIL. Is that 844?
855.
Oh, 855. Sorry, my eyesight.
877 soil.
It's been a while. It's been 2 weeks, dude. I can't remember.
Oh, no,
Almost.
wow.
I usually remember these things. Or go to buildasoil.com. Get to contact them directly and get your soil rocking with Build a Soil. See that? I threw something in there. All right, next one. Boom. Oh my God, these guys. Seeds here now. On the road. Right now, James is crisscrossing the country, seeing all of his favorite breeders. Hopefully going to bring us some crazy news from the road, I'm sure. He's going to call in a little while, I think, and he's going to tell us where he's at. I think he's in the Badlands. He's like in North Carolina or something like that. So it's like definitely can't be looking all suspicious on the side of the road, smoking weed, doing a show. So that's not going to work. But yeah, maybe he'll call in. But he's got all sorts of specials. What are going on? Besides being my exclusive dealer, what else has that boy got? Well, actually, don't even worry about it. He's going to call in and give us all the specials. That's what's going to happen.
Okay, cool.
And actually, next week is going to be a big whole Seeds Here Now party down here because you're going to be in town. James, everybody, crew, all it. Hopefully, we'll get Tommy in here, and we'll get a couple other locals, get two and whoever, and it's going to turn messy. It's going to turn all messy and sloppy. I can already tell. Yep, messy, sloppy next week, but. James always brings us all the breed. Like right now, we got Mean Gene from Aficionado coming up after this, and also from him. And he's got 35 different breeders, maybe more, but I just keep saying 35. And the best, and also very, the main thing with these guys is that they guarantee every fucking seed. So that's like, who does that, right?
Right.
I even. Back in the day at Sensi, we're just like, come on now. It's living material. I can't guarantee everyone, but this guy, James, says, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Got a bad seed, he'll send you new ones. You're not happy with it, he'll send you new ones. But it's all about customer feedback, so it's got to be, and it's also constructive for all the breeders. People can realize if there's any issues going on, maybe they go back, figure it out. And that's that's also part of the thing is that he communicates with all his breeders. I'm one of them, so I know. And that's part of the deal, which a lot of shops and things just don't. They're just trying to pump numbers. But I think with James, it's like pretty obvious he's trying to bring you the best. He also has Seedaholics, which is their online auction site, which is you get last packs, exclusive stuff, lost stuff, things that got sent in the never got picked up in the mail and got found again 5 years later. All the cool shit you can find is on that Seedaholics site. And also he's got a bunch of, if there's ever a cause or something like that, he just helped us out with Buck Russell's campaign there, where we had some great results there. And, that's what it's about, bringing it back. And so anyway, seedsherenow.com, seedsherenow.com, seedsherenow.com. Boom. Incredibles, edibles, and extracts. God, I still didn't get these new. I'm gonna go over there this week. I talked to Derek yesterday, so it's time for me to go over there and hang out for a bit. So maybe when I'm there, I'll make some sort of arrangements to have properly channeled edible adult tasty things, and we can get to try some of these new flavors, because I have not tried those orange ones, and I haven't tried it. There's a mint one or something like that, or what's
pistachio, salted pistachio mint.
Yeah, that one good. I haven't had. Oh my God, that's gonna be my favorite. That's gonna be my new favorite. Haven't tried that winter mint. Another mint. It says double mint gum, or double mint twins. Whatever. Double mint candy. No, double mint adult tasty things. Exactly. Go to iloveincredibles.com. They were actually representing at the party in New York, which was the crowning of Jason Pinsky.
Oh yeah, how was that?
It's pretty good. You can check it out on Bloomberg, man. Got a couple articles.
Cool.
Got a few articles. Well, one at least. Bloomberg and now High Times. So we'll pull it up after. We can.
Cool.
I'm sure we can find it. But Incredibles were there with their awesome pens, which, I think out of all the flavors I've seen, all the pen combos and stuff, it's like pretty much guaranteed you're going to get good to the last drop. That's what I like, because one of those things, sometimes those things are like, they taste okay and then all of a sudden taste worse, but these things top to bottom taste awesome. What's that?
It's a recipe.
Whoa, they're throwing up recipes now?
Yeah, I guess so. It's the ingredients: 1 strawberry crunch bar and 1 peanut Buddha bar.
Wow.
Huh.
So you can go to recipes on there and pick up some good tips on how to use your incredible extracts in a more creative manner there. That's pretty dope.
Yeah.
And I think we should get them. I'm going over there to get some more. That's basically what it came down to. And I think that's it, right? We're done.
Yep. I think
See, because we don't have those guys.
The feed cut out real quick, so we're gonna.
Oh, did it?
Yep.